going on, guys? TG or ThunderGod here, and today we're going to be talking about Minato in the one-shot manga and how strong he really is, and like maybe the upgrades that were made to his character, some of the statements that were made, some of the feats he performs. I'll be kind of shedding light on all that and discussing how impressive it really is, because there's a lot of great stuff for Minato in this manga, and some stuff that, you know, is maybe a bit more questionable, as you guys might imagine if you've read it. Spoilers ahead, but with that being said, like and subscribe if you're new here, and let's get into the video. So starting off, right off the bat, you open Viz, you open Manga Plus, bam, in your face, we see a more prime Han and Roshi display their Bijuu in ethereal form, almost charging up Bijuu bombs at Minato, Jiraiya, and Co. Very similar to how Naruto enters the Kurama avatar when he undoes the seal separating him and Kurama's chakra, giving this idea Prime Han and Roshi were really just monsters, especially considering they only think the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki from Konoha is capable of combating them. Even Jiraiya remarks how the situation was a close call, even via his standards. This is impressive for teenage Minato, however, as it displays that even at a young age, he has the capability of fighting alongside the Sannin in an era of raging war, along with showcasing his ability to react and teleport away from these Bijuu Damas. This encounter was very thought-provoking for Minato, now being witness to the Bijuu's power firsthand, and how Kushina has the same power inside of her. We find out later on that Minato was actually designing this jutsu for Kushina to be used against opposing Jinchuriki or Bijuu. This will play into discussing Minato's strength with the Rasengan later on. However, the fact that Minato is concocting a jutsu of this magnitude to specifically combat the high durability hides and cloaks of Jinchuriki is absolutely absurd. You want an example of this? You have Four Tails Naruto, who wasn't getting pierced by Orochimaru's grass longsword, or how Killer B is capable of dragging his arm against the Raikage's lightning armor when they're performing the lariat, which is deadly on its own, so this is not insignificant. Minato is shown going through an intense training session where Kishimoto brings back the Jiraiya training bit he had with Jiraiya and Naruto, relating to needing your chakra in the direction of your hair, Minato having two whirls, the sign of a genius in Jiraiya's own words. After receiving this information and having his intellect provoked by popsicles, he's able to have the Rasengan take form. Jiraiya once again offering praise with his incredible grasp on ninjutsu. After dropping one of the worst jutsu names in history, seriously, Jiraiya also remarks how Minato has completed the first stage of developing a new jutsu. Kushina then arrives to the training field to meet Minato. Now, I know I'm brushing aside the Kushina stuff. She's going to get her own video since this is basically a Kushina chapter as well. So I'm going to kind of slide past her, but she is going to get her own video after this one. But essentially, it's implied her seal is weakening throughout this chapter from the moment she stepped outside the barrier shown earlier in the chapter. Minato extrapolates on his reasoning for developing the jutsu as well as how the Rasengan was intended to work in accordance or harmony with Jinchuriki levels of chakra volume. This is more than likely signaling that Minato had intended for the Rasengan to also match the size of the tail beast bombs, with it also being a substitute of sort, as even when Naruto obtains Kurama's chakra and he attempts the Rasengan, he actually inadvertently creates a tails beast bomb in his palm. After applying 6 PATS levels of Riz, we see Kushina undergo Bijuification, where Minato ends up getting slammed by a version 1 tail on the border of entering version 2. The reason I say on the border is due to the eyes, how they're literally the same as Naruto, right as he's about to go into the four-tail state, along with there being black chakra radiating around Kushina. Some people I've seen have also tried to say it's a big anti-feat for Minato, but clearly he's just concerned for Kushina and makes no attempt to avoid or defend himself, actually just trying to help her. If anything, the fact that Minato survives this is more impressive since we've seen characters like Kabuto get bodied from the raw chakra of the Nine-Tails. The reason this is objectively more impressive than a lot of the feats Naruto performs with the Nine-Tails is that this is actually the complete Kyuubi and not half the chakra that was sealed inside Naruto. So him not just getting destroyed outright while off-guarded by this tail swipe is pretty nutty stuff. After the fact, we see the Nine-Tails freeing himself from the restraints inside Kushina's psyche, attempting to slam her with his tail, only to be blocked by sealing jutsu, which is revealed to be Minato. Now, I want to put this into perspective for you, because this is actually a pretty absurd feat that nobody's really talked about. Minato was able to recover enough from getting slammed and dash at Kushina and implement the sealing before the Nine-Tails in her psyche could strike her down. That's a stupid, crazy speed feat. And we know this happens in real time because Kushina and Minato are reacting in real time. You could maybe say he has Flying Raijin seal on her, allowing him to teleport to her. However, Kishimoto is very explicit when showing a character teleporting to another character via Flying Raijin. And due to that not being the case here, it leads me to believe this is just pure body movement by Minato. So we actually do see him kind of outspeed the Nine-Tails to a degree from a disadvantageous situation. Here we probably get to the most controversial part of this manga. We see Minato augment the Tetragram seal in his own style. Minato actually improving upon the seal that was likely used on Mito Uzumaki herself. Yet Minato is shown here improving upon it and thus stops the Nine-Tails from continuing his assault on Kushina's psyche. We then get to the statement that everybody's talking about. Kurama remarks that Minato, despite not being an Uzumaki, is able to augment the seal used on Kurama, leading to Kurama praising Minato as a most powerful shinobi, ranking alongside the first Hokage Hashirama. Now, I want to start off by saying this before everybody starts going crazy and losing their minds. I want to, regardless of how you interpret this statement, this is ridiculously high level of praise for Minato, and it's clear Kishimoto believes he should be discussed alongside Hashirama, whether that be in abilities or pure strength. Now, I'm going to kind of give my perspective on it. Kurama only gives this praise after discovering that Minato is not an Uzumaki and that he's augmenting his seal. In my opinion, I believe he's kind of referencing Minato's ability to suppress the Nine Tails, as no one up until this point has really been able to do it aside from Hashirama, Madara, and the Uzumaki clan. So you have this 15-year-old come out of nowhere and just augments a seal that's been used for generations and would invoke some high praise. Even Kurama kind of questions Minato. He's like, why are you even interested in this last? And Minato's like, have you seen that? This is way more consistent with what's been established in the series than 15 to 16-year-old Minato being stronger than Hashirama. It just seems to be in reference to either some form of fuinjutsu, like sealing, or just nine-tail suppression in general. Again, this becomes a lot more consistent when you consider Kurama's point of view, as he's been exposed to very few humans of substance, the only ones to actually suppress his power to the degree, again, being Madara, Hashirama, and the Uzumaki clan. So seeing, this young shinobi perform this would just be absurd. This also helps completely not break every ounce of scaling in the Naruto manga, as Minato's outright stated to be surpassed by Naruto after Naruto had linked up with Kurama's power, with him becoming adept at handling his chakra, with Madara consistently watching the same Naruto with low amounts of difficulty, and, Hashirama able to stalemate this Madara. He's also consistent with the chapter itself, as Minato clearly isn't able to take down the likes of the 5 and 6 tails, whereas Hashirama has a wooden golem in his back pocket as strong as the complete 9 tails. So it just seems far more consistent when everything's taken into account. There's also another layer to this, and I'm confident everybody is doing this. Your favorite YouTubers are all going to do it. That is the translation itself. So for anybody who's not familiar with the reasoning and why people would even be coming at the translation, despite Viz being the official release for Naruto, there's actually a middleman who is kind of in charge of localizing the manga to other languages. There's also why Japanese anime subtitles and English dubs don't sound exactly the same or have the exact same words. Now for Naruto, there's actually a letterer that replaces things like dialogue, adjusts font sizes, etc. on top of a translator. So it's a multi-man process. Now, if you want to know where I'm getting this from, it's actually on the Naruto official website, link in the description below, where they outline the entire process of how Viz comes to these translations. But essentially what this means is that the letterer can make mistakes or add words not present in the original kanji. An example of this is when Kabuto remarks in the original Naruto manga that Orochimaru is superior than Sasori. This is actually not present in the original kanji and was something added in by the letterer. So what does that mean? Well, I had a buddy of mine who's pretty reliable for translations kind of break it down for me. I'll leave his channel in the description. And he was able to break down and shed some insight on what the statement was saying with the raw kanji, also on screen for anybody who wants it or is curious. His localization translation came out to, Minato learned to strengthen the Uzumaki seal just like Hashirama did. Or at least that's kind of the meaning from the translation. Now, instead of just being like, trust me, bro, I'm actually going to put the raw kanji in the description, as well as outline pretty much how we came to this conclusion on screen. But this will also be consistent with the chapter with Minato learning Uzumaki sealing and adding onto it. So him being comparable to Hashirama in a suppression slash sealing manner just seems a lot more consistent, especially with what's been presented in the series. If you want to have your own translation, maybe plug it into ChatGPT, which a lot of people use for translating. The kanji is going to be down below, just to kind of be transparent with this information, because, it's going to kind of dive around. I just think this is the most consistent way to look at it. Bottom line is, I don't think teenage Minato is beating Hashirama, especially since Kyuubi Minato is more comparable to full power Hashirama. So I'm gonna kind of move on from this point, but yeah, that's my closing thoughts, kind of my opinion. And there's also a narrative to this that I'm gonna add in at the end of the video, because this all does fall in line with the narrative that was presented in Naruto Shippuden. But after a bit more exposition, we see Kushina improve upon her Uzumaki chains in this moment of crisis, very similar to Karin when Sasuke's life was on the line. We jump back to Minato, and he was actually able to bring consciousness to Kushina for a brief moment, until Kushina goes into her version 2 state, with 7 tails active, piercing right through Minato. Minato's actually still able to maintain the seal despite this happening, where we see him hop up from the free throw line and dunk a Rasengan into Kurama's tail beast bomb. Now, there's a bit to unravel here, but I want to start out by saying how impressive this is for a few reasons, as we lead into the feat itself. For starters, Minato is being stabbed by the version 2 Nine Tails, whose swipes are compared to poison, to the point Sakura, an actual medic who can heal herself, is nerfed for the rest of the arc, along with having her bodily movements hindered via getting swiped by Naruto, let alone a hole in someone's stomach. While this is happening, Minato's chakra enters Kushina's mind. I'm going to talk about this astral projection thing in a second, but I do want to note two things. This is a complete Bijuu bomb, and Kushina is holding and restricting the Nine Tails, painting this situation as a bit of a team effort instead of just Minato boloing, which I do think plays into the overall narrative that I'm going to discuss later on between Kushina, Minato, and the Nine Tails. Now, a lot of people are going to be split on this one with one of two takes. This isn't the real Minato, so it doesn't matter. Or this can actually be used to assess Minato's strength. We actually know that in Naruto vs. the Nine Tails, Killer B bumps fists with Naruto and shares some of his chakra to help Naruto out. And he actually notes that he has very little might inside of Naruto's head. What people need to understand is that Minato has showcased the ability to leave portions of his chakra and Kushina's chakra inside Naruto's head in the original timeline, which is how they meet with him. And in both situations, Minato and Kushina were capable of influencing Naruto internally and externally. Minato rebuilds Naruto's seal, and Kushina helps him by suppressing the Nine Tails inside Naruto's head. Again, they're doing this with portions of their chakras, not their full abilities. Now, I want to display how impressive this Rasengan feat is for everybody, and the state of Minato performing it and what it exactly means. Minato, before he performs this feat, had just finished training, exhausting himself on a new jutsu during training, got slashed by the Nine Tails tail, expending chakra, reinforcing and augmenting Kushina's seal, had the Nine Tails gouge him in the stomach with a cloak that is comparable to poison and should be hindering his cognitive abilities. And Minato comes in with Kushina's aid and slams his Rasengan against the tail beast bomb. A Rasengan that was just created and not mastered, as it took Minato 3 years following this to actually perfect the jutsu. Holy shit, dude. And the crazy thing is, this is against the complete Nine Tails. Now, with the kind of astral projection stuff, it's more, honestly, it's more of like a chakra battle, right? So when you kind of look at it, you have, Kushina against like the Nine Tails when she's helping Naruto out. She's basically like suppressing the chakra, stopping the Nine Tails from taking over. Naruto has to damage the Nine Tails to take his chakra. So it's really, are they able to kind of restrict the Nine Tails chakra in these encounters? In which case you have Minato with this small portion of his chakra come in and combat the complete Nine Tails. Now, we don't see the outcome of the feat where he slams the Rasengan against the Bijuu bomb, but I will say, the fact that Minato is actually pushing back against the bomb, as you see the movement lines on it, and able to create an explosion, does mean it would have to be comparable, as otherwise it would just have gotten boloed, like when the Shinobi Alliance in the Fourth War created hundreds of mud walls that did nothing against the 10 Tails Beast Bomb, or when the 8 Tails is like shooting Bijuu bombs at it. It would have to be somewhat comparable. This also, in fact, means that Minato's Rasengan was strong enough to hinder the Nine Tails and allow Kushina to suppress it. As if she didn't suppress it and Minato's efforts were worth nothing, then Nine Tails would have roamed free and just wreaked havoc on the village. It would have completed its takeover on Kushina. So Minato's Rasengan would have had to been effective, at the very least, at stunning the Nine Tails, or in some way, shape, or form counteracting the Bijuu bomb. So I think this is a pretty huge upgrade for Minato in terms of his power behind his Rasengan, which is also consistent with Naruto Shippuden, as his basic Rasengan's more comparable to the Rasen Shuriken. We then cut to Minato in the hospital, and he obviously survives. Everything's good. He lays on some more Riz, all that good stuff. But I was mentioning the narrative before between Minato, Kushina, and the Kyuubi. What am I talking about? So essentially, this is presented in Naruto Shippuden, specifically when Naruto's like trying to take over Kurama's chakra, and he's talking with the Nine Tails more throughout the war. Essentially, from the Nine Tails point of view, and he notes this multiple times, he views Kushina and Minato as his arch enemies. These are two individuals who are consistently able to suppress him, seal him, and combat him. And the icing on the cake is how they sealed the Nine Tails inside of a small child, which only amplifies his hatred of them, as it's a huge like thing of disrespect. It's like, you sealed me inside a baby. And then you have Naruto when he obtains Kurama's chakra and he's going throughout the war arc. He actually notes his like source of motivation or inspiration almost. He refers to them as his twin sons, which juxtaposes Kurama's view of those two are like the villains in my story. With this, it's kind of established that the Minato Kushina combo, especially when you look at the Nine Tails breaking free or this chapter, it's very implied in my opinion, or I believe Kishimoto's trying to kind of portray that the duo of Kushina and Minato are what is able to take down the Kyuubi or able to suppress it or able to combat it. As Kushina with her adamantine sealing chains and Minato with his various sealing ninjutsu or Rasengan variants are able to combat it. This is what's displayed prominently throughout this chapter. This is what's displayed when the Nine Tails breaks out and the Nine Tails attack against the Leaf Village and Minato and Kushina ultimately end up dead. Finally cemented as Naruto, the culmination of these two beings, being the one to ultimately surpass both of them and befriend Kurama. It kind of ties in very nicely, but the bottom line I have with this one shot, I think it's absolutely fantastic, and I think it really cements how Kushina and Minato are really the perfect tag team to take down the Kyuubi, and together they are capable of suppressing it and dealing with it. So that's my viewpoint. Let me know what you guys thought about the Minato one shot. Let me know if you agree, disagree, why. This is just my perspective on it. I really wanted to voice my opinion on this as I had some strong feelings, but I do feel like this is the most consistent route in terms of like looking at this. So, you know, great upgrades for Minato, great stuff for Kushina. Let me know if you guys want to see a Kushina video. I really want to do that as she has so much great stuff here. And Kushina has great lore as well. There's a lot of great stuff for her. Many times can I say great. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.